Good morning, good afternoon to some of you. Welcome to our second installation of State Local Government Connect. My name is Christian Carlson, and I'm here with my friend and colleague, Scott Oppman. And we're gonna talk to you for the next 30 or 45 minutes or so about SaaS GIS for local government. I do have just a couple of really quick administrative things to cover. We'll get those out of the way up front. Number one, we're recording this session. It'll be available for those of you who haven't been able to make it live, plus you can go back and rewatch it. So we're recording the session. Feel free to pass along to others that you might feel are interested. But yeah, it's being recorded, so just know that. Number two, there's an option for you to ask questions, and when we finish the formal presentation, we'll go through the questions and we'll answer the common ones that we feel apply to the largest number of attendees, and we'll go through those questions. And then I also have just a few probably questions that I'll just answer because they're common questions related to this subject that I'll add to the mix there. Number three, the last thing is that I mentioned this is the second installment of State and Local Government Connect. This is a series of 5 webinars that we're doing for the first half of the year. So please check out the schedule. Our next one will be on November 18th, and when we wrap up, I'll give you information about that next webinar series. But we pre-selected some content that we felt would be applicable to deliver in the first part of the year. So we have 5 of those defined, and then we will be scheduling another 5 or 6 for the second half of the year, which we're sort of collecting user sentiment, market sentiment about the topics that would be most interesting, and we're just about to define the schedule for the second half of the year. So please, again, tell your colleagues and friends that we do have State and Local Connect, and get them to attend. I think hopefully they're valuable sessions for you, and they help us stay connected while we're in this current pandemic environment that we're in today. And I will tell you that this feels really good. Since March, I haven't done a lot of presentations, and this feels normal. I'm actually in an office and I'm connecting with you guys, and we're talking, and I'm excited about it. So Scott and I are really eager to share the content today. I truly believe that what we're communicating to you and what we're going to share with you are capabilities of the ArcGIS platform that can revolutionize the way that you implement solutions in your organization. And I think you're gonna feel the same. So I'm excited to talk about it. So let me just forward. I wanna give you a little bit of context. So Scott and I are part of a team of about 180 GIS professionals that are dedicated to the state and local government market. And so our mission, like what we organize ourselves around, is connecting our technology and capabilities with the work that state and local government customers do. Like that's our mission, is to connect GIS and location with the work that governments do. And if we know that in doing this, in working with organizations like the ones that you are in, that we can achieve a lot of really good results. And they're sort of, how do you describe those results, right? They're operational efficiencies within departments, so public works, land records, public safety, across the entire government landscape, efficiencies. We support project work that is used to better understand information and information about your communities that support better decision making. We know that location and geography, like using that as the framework for communication and understanding, is catalytic in driving internal and external collaboration and civic engagement. And so, this plays out across your organizations, and there's examples across the entire government landscape of how these benefits and values of a GIS applied at an enterprise level have value. And so we see these again in these operational workflows in key departments like public works and land records, but also in, again, project work where geospatial, like spatial analysis, is applied to data to help you better understand your organization, make better decisions, and communicate. And then very specifically, there are some applications of GIS that all of you know and are aware of that are cross-cutting, and they're just values to the organization as a whole. And public engagement is one of those. And one of the things I'll point out is that the very next webinar in the series is going to be around public engagement. And I think it's a really important topic. We'll talk about it a little bit at the end, just to sort of seed that webinar session. But it's a really important aspect of GIS implementation today in government. And it'll be exciting to sort of do that webinar, have some good content there. The last thing I'll sort of say about the value of GIS within a government is something that we've really seen over the past several months, and it's your ability as GIS users to respond very quickly to unforeseen events, needs, and requirements. And the work that you as a community have done to support the pandemic with GIS and to respond to some of the social challenges that we've had has been nothing short of amazing. And it's a testament to the flexibility of the technology and the applicability of GIS and geography to a variety of things within the government landscape. And so in addition to just sort of like laying this out, like laying out the application areas of GIS and where it adds value to your organization, it's also a really good segue into some work that we've been involved in for a number of years. And so, as I mentioned, Scott, who's with us here on the webinar today, he leads our solutions group at Esri. And what we've done with this group, it's been like sort of the overarching vision of our solutions effort is to provide our users with more than just raw technology and capability. We want you to be able to implement the ArcGIS platform as a solution for your organization. So you're not just buying or leveraging capabilities, you're actually implementing a government GIS system in your organization, or you have access to it through ArcGIS. And so what we've done is we've organized this work around the functional units of government. So this slide depicts that. So elections, public health, public works, land records, law enforcement, fire. And we've identified through the work that you've been doing for years, the common applications and workflows that exist in these organizations. And then providing those as a well-organized portfolio of solutions that you have access to as part of the platform. With the current release of ArcGIS Online, there's a subset of these solutions that can be searched for, managed, deployed, and configured straight from the ArcGIS Online environment, which changes the game a bit, because those solutions that fit that criteria can be implemented easily and quickly across your organization as 100% SaaS solutions. I mean, this is really transformative for you and your organization, because again, you can deploy quickly, you can deploy broadly without the need for additional infrastructure or additional software. For those of you who have enterprise GIS systems already in place, of course, this is all part of that ecosystem. You can leverage those tools and enhance this scenario that I'm describing, but it's not necessary. They're actually available to you as 100% SaaS solutions. And so the first thing I thought we would do is sort of walk through the concept of what I'm talking about here. I wanted to introduce at a high level framework two specific solutions. One's elections, and I'm going to do capital improvement planning second. And I selected these two to sort of walk through for very specific reasons, and I'll point those out as I go through. So I'll walk through the capabilities delivered in our elections solution. This is an important solution, one, because it's very time relevant. So we're seeing a lot of activity within our user community and within governments of all sizes that are downloading and deploying the elections solution right now. It's not too late. We're learning that on a daily basis. We're having customers as recent as today download and deploy the election solutions. So one, it's very important. It's a timely solution for today. Number two, it's an example of a solution that you may not need to have deployed all the time. So it's time bound. It's during an election. So you can spin the solution up, you can spin it down when you don't need it. And third, it's an example of a solution that would that would sort of drive additional users to your resources and cause a spike in usage. So this can be a challenge sometimes when systems get overloaded. These are all characteristics that I sort of want to highlight because they're part of the value proposition of using a SaaS solution. So I'm going to walk through the capabilities that you're delivered with the election solution. And so first, and I'll use this to sort of describe the way that we design and architect our solutions. So a solution is comprised of maybe one application, but in a lot of cases, it's multiple applications that make the actual solution. And so we can break that solution down into a series of capabilities. And so with elections, the first set of capabilities is around pre-election activity, which is educating your voters so that they can learn more about their elected officials and support their participation in the elections process. So this is an application where they can look by location or in their community as a whole, who are the elected officials. You can configure that application so that it links to those candidates' websites. You can learn about them and just become educated in who the elected officials are in their organization, who's running in a particular election, and so they can be more informed as they participate in the elections process. The second capability is around the actual voting day or voting time period activities. So those capabilities revolve around locating polling locations where they're going to go and vote. There's a really neat capability where they can actually see the wait times at each voting location, which I think is a really fantastic capability to have. So they know that the location at the local school is has a wait time of 10 minutes versus another one that is 45, and that could influence where they actually go to vote. So it's not necessarily the closest polling place. It can be the one that is near and has the lowest wait time. And then, of course, giving them driving directions if they need it to get to that location. The third capability is, of course, being able to provide authoritative elections results information to the public. So it's a dashboard that's configured and you populate it with the elections results information. Those are all citizen-facing applications. There's a fourth component of our election solution that addresses the operational aspects or internal operations of elections, and that is around managing election day performance and ensuring that we have the resources and supplies available across that landscape to support an effectively managed election day effort. So you can understand or communicate resource requests, where we need to deploy any type of resource that you actually need to make those elections operations happen in an efficient manner. Then it also includes a component where you can collect voter sentiment. So voters that come in to vote can actually take a survey and express, answer questions about their experience in voting, which goes back into a feedback loop for you and your organizations to understand how you can improve that process over the long run and in the future. The second solution I'll highlight at this conceptual level is around capital improvement planning. So this is this is sort of a metaphor for the type of solution that your organization would deploy in a more permanent environment. So this is these are capital improvement projects are happening all the time. So you could deploy this suite of applications as a standard offering that you make available within your organization and externally. It also has 4 capability sort of areas that I would describe as the capabilities that are delivered through the complete solution. The first is an application that allows you to or supports your efforts to organize your capital improvement plans around specific assets. So you can take all the data and information around capital improvement projects and organize them around transportation, utilities, parks and rec, so that they're neatly organized and shared in an environment that makes sense to your organization. The second is around providing a set of solutions or applications that help you inform and collaborate with both internal and external constituents. So this is supporting your needs to coordinate efforts between departments, so between utilities and public safety, internally, but then also coordinating with relevant stakeholders that are external to your organization. So it can be a private utility that needs to be notified or informed about your capital improvement projects and plans. The third capability is around monitoring the construction or project status. And so through this application, you'd track project start dates, where they are within the cycle of construction. So what level of completeness is that project? You can track budget, whether you're over budget, under budget, on budget, but it monitors the entire construction status of your CIP projects. And then lastly, which is always a very important thing, and one of the things that I often look for within my community is you can deploy applications that engage the public to share information about the capital improvement projects and priorities in your community. Again, that's one of the types of applications as a citizen in my community that I actually look for. Those are things that I'm interested in. And it's a vital part of the comprehensive capital improvement solution set. So this pattern that I just laid out, where we have these capabilities that are sort of organized, this plays out across the landscape of our solutions offering. And so I know this is a little bit of an eye chart, what you're looking at here, but what I'm trying to depict here is for each of these departments, those capability areas are defined in the text off to the side. So public health, 3 major components of the solutions that you have access to as SaaS solutions. One is prevent the spread of disease, so a collection of applications that address that capability area. Number 2, managing public health crises. So we have, again, a set of applications that we developed that's in direct response to the pandemic that we're in today that help you manage a public health crisis like we're in right now. And then 3rd, a set of capabilities around providing information as they pertain to health and human services that your government offers to its citizens. So you can play this sort of pattern out across this solution ecosystem to sort of understand how we're presenting the technology and the issues that we're trying to tackle with each one. So what is important about this? What's the value to this approach? A SaaS deployment of solutions. There are many. So number 1, it supports the rapid implementation of GIS solutions in government. So there's no development required. You can search for solutions, configure them, and deploy them efficiently and very quickly across your organization. So there's which leads me to the second component of the value proposition, which is it's a broad portfolio of solutions that transcend a single department and really address the key functional units of government, which is really where we're all driving as GIS professionals and as within Esri, within the mission of our team, is to diffuse the capabilities of GIS across the enterprise, and that's really where the value comes to that's where we know that governments get the most value out of GIS, is where it's actually been deployed broadly and deeply within the functional units of government. Going forward, flexible deployment. You can spin them up and spin them down. You're not investing in a specific solution that only needs to be deployed for a small amount of time. You have access to this broad portfolio of solutions, so you can decide which ones you need today. Some are going to persist indefinitely, others are going to spin up and spin down. You can deploy them without the need of additional infrastructure. You don't have to develop the applications. We do make the code available. We've open sourced all the code, so if there is a need for you to adjust the code, you can do that if you have those resources. But these are ready to deploy solutions for your organization, and you can deploy them quickly with no application development required. They're licensed on an annual subscription basis. They're fully supported. So we upgrade the applications, and we, as part of our development process, as well as constantly adding new applications a couple times a year to that portfolio of solutions. And so we're constantly, through our engagements with the user community, understanding your needs. Things come up like the pandemic and other things, we respond quickly to those, and we make sure that we get new offerings included in this portfolio as part of a regular vetted process of just enriching this ecosystem of solutions for the user community. We're going to transition now into over to Scott, and Scott's going to go through a demonstration where he's going to show you the capabilities that exist in ArcGIS Online today in accessing these solutions. So I'm going to turn it over to Scott. So Scott, if you want to take this, I'm going to mute myself so I don't make too much noise while Scott is presenting, talking.
And hopefully you can see my screen okay. So thanks, Christian, and thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Scott Ottman, and I have the good fortune of leading our solutions team, and I want to share a little bit more about the solutions that Christian referred to today. And as Christian said, ArcGIS comes with a whole host of solutions, and when you log into your ArcGIS organization, you can browse that gallery of solutions and quickly discover capabilities and solutions that help you leverage the investment you're making in ArcGIS and location-based data. We have more than 100 different solutions available, and today what I'd like to do is really just focus on 3 key solutions. And they're very timely, obviously, heading into the election, and that is election outreach, election management, and election results. And I'm going to start with election outreach because it's really the work that our local clerks and local governments do to improve voter participation and really drive active communication with the community they serve. And when you deploy election outreach, the first place you'll start is an ArcGIS hub site that comes with that solution. And this hub site really is a destination that you can use for your transparent election activities. And it can be linked from your existing website or stood up as a whole new destination for your community. And what you'll find is this hub site provides a whole host of key capabilities that help the public or registered voters in your community find who their elected representative is, maybe understand key election dates, locate where they may vote either before an election or on election day. In some cases, you may want to actually engage the public to become poll workers and really help you on election day. And then ultimately, after results have been tabulated, you'll want to share those with the public, either in a series of focused applications organized around a specific election, or perhaps even the raw data that you tabulate and then use to make key decisions in your organization. So as I mentioned, election outreach includes this destination, along with a series of very focused applications that you can use to help educate the voters in your community. And the first one I want to show you is My Elected Representative. And think about this as a real map-based interface into the public officials in your community, and whether those are local officials that may be serving on city councils or county commissions, or their state or U.S. offices like the U.S. Senate. And with a quick search on an address or perhaps poke on the map, members of your community can see who their elected representatives are and get more detailed information about them. And typically an application like this is used, prior to the election to really inform the public and the electorate on who is representing them in their community. And on election day, one of the most important things you want to do is make sure people are getting to the right polling place or election location or voting center. And so the election polling place application allows you to provide that authoritative inventory of polling places and precincts that they represent. So once again, I can search for an address or simply poke at the map. It'll show me exactly what precinct I'm in and what polling place I vote in. It'll tell me when the next election is and give me some important information that helps me make a decision about when I'm going to vote. The other thing you can do with both the election polling places application and the voting center application is actually wired up to wait times and begin to illustrate and highlight wait times for each of these polling places so voters in the community can make an informed decision on when they want to go in. So whether you're one of the maybe 35 or so states in the country that use what I would call traditional polling places, or you're a state that has implemented new voting centers or perhaps provides voting centers for pre-election day activities like absentee ballots and other things, you have an application that you can use to really help the public get to the right voting center on election day. And as I mentioned, with both the polling place application and the voting center application, you can share wait times with those voters so they can make informed decisions. And as we've all seen in the news recently, right, those long lines and helping to balance those long lines and meet those needs is really important. So election outreach is really designed to help clerks and local governments inform the public and improve participation on election day. And what I'd like to do now is transition inside the clerk's office and talk about the next solution, which is election management. And as we know, election offices are many times some of the smallest agencies in government until election day. And on election day, those organizations engage volunteers, folks from other parts of the local government to help them conduct efficient and effective elections. And they're challenged with aging business systems, volunteer workforces with varying levels of skill, and ultimately the decisions they make on election day really become very public in terms of wait times or challenges at the voting locations. So the next solution I want to show you is called election management. It provides a series of maps and apps for the clerks and the individuals within their offices. And it really starts with the first application called Election Assistant. And this application is designed for each of your polling locations or voting centers. And it really provides a simple way for poll workers to do two key things. One, to log wait times during the day, and two, to request assistance if you may have a machine that breaks or perhaps you're running out of ballots. And so on a regular basis, poll workers can simply come in and select the report wait times button and ultimately quickly fill out the wait times for that polling place. And you can do this on an hourly basis. You can really determine how frequently you'd like those voting time or those wait times to be reported and then ultimately shared with the public. The other thing Election Assistant allows poll workers to do is request assistance. So as I mentioned, you may have machines that are malfunctioning throughout the day as more and more ballots are tabulated, or perhaps you have a high turnout at that polling place and you're running out of ballots. The Election Assistant application allows poll workers to come in and quickly report those problems, specify a criticality, add any details, maybe grab a photo if you've got a safety or security issue, and submit that. Ultimately, what that does then is start a process inside the clerk's office that allows you to dispatch rovers or field workers out to those polling places to resolve this issue and then track the resolution of that issue throughout the election day. The last thing I want to mention that's really focused around polling places or voting centers is the voter satisfaction survey. And we've seen many clerks or election offices actually post QR codes on the way out of the polling place that takes direct links to that takes the voter directly to this satisfaction survey. And as Christian mentioned, after they vote or kind of drop off a ballot at that voting center, they can fill out this satisfaction survey and share their experience. We're tracking wait times with the Election Assistant application, but we can also begin to gather sentiment and the perceived length of time that they waited and their overall experience at that voting center. So this is really designed to not only help you, this information product or survey actually complements the Election Assistant and it allows you to gather sentiment in addition to the facts that your polling workers are reporting throughout the day. All of that information then bubbles up into a performance dashboard for the clerks or election staff. And so the election performance dashboard now is really designed for election staff that are working maybe back at headquarters or at a designated location, and they want to monitor performance of the polling places or voting centers throughout the day. And when they first access the performance dashboard, you'll see it provides them some very key indicators that let them know how things are going at their polling places, what the average wait times might be, how many critical requests they're dealing with now, and ultimately the overall satisfaction of the voters that are participating in that satisfaction survey. But they can not only see a quick snapshot or glimpse of what's going on, they can begin to drill into the details of what's happening on election day. So I talked about those election requests that were being reported at each of the polling places. This allows the clerk staff to look quickly at how many are they dealing with across their entire portfolio of polling locations or voting centers, how many of them have been completed, what types of issues we're dealing with, today or on election day. Perhaps it's supplies or computer equipment where we're seeing a real challenge, and then begin to get into even the specific request itself and where it is in the process and whether or not it's been completed and how long did it take us to resolve that issue. So they can drill into the requests. They can begin to look at wait times that are being reported at each of the polling locations. They can see quickly on the map where they may have large wait times or long wait times, a list of polling locations or voting centers sorted by the longest wait times and what the average wait time is throughout the voting day. And so this just provides a real glimpse into what's going on in terms of wait times at the polling locations. And then finally, you have a simple way to see the sentiment that's being shared by voters after they vote at one of your polling or voting centers. And you can see the overall score around the facility itself, how helpful your staff was, and ultimately how simple or easy they thought the voting process was. We have a standard way to kind of score those results, and ultimately you can begin to look at each of the survey results for each polling location, and perhaps we may do this after the election to start to think about plans or changes you may want to make in your plans for the next election as a whole. So then the last solution I want to show you today, or election solution I want to show you, is the election results solution. And this is designed to really help complement election results that you share either on election night or after you tabulate those results or canvass the results in your community. And the election results solution really provides a map-based view of those results that's much more immersive than the traditional tabular reports that we see. And this solution can be configured for each individual election you have. So I could have one for the primary election, one for general elections, and I just continue to accumulate a gallery of these results. At any point in time, as a member of the public or perhaps the media that's interested in this, I can go in and look at a specific elected office. So perhaps I want to look at the results for the governor of the state of Illinois. I can select that contest. It'll update the results not only here in the bottom, but also for each precinct itself, you'll see detailed results as well. I can not only look at political contests, but I can also look at proposals that I may have in my community and even begin to get information about voter turnout. So the election results application really allows me, and the solution overall allows me to tabulate and share those results in a map-based view. It allows me to provide a couple different windows into that information, either around an elected office that I'm tracking, proposals that may be on the ballot in my community, and then I can start to use that also to get a sense for voter turnout. And ultimately, I can see that information at the precinct level or even at the entire municipality. And so I have a couple different geographies that I can begin to analyze the results on if I really want to understand how things are, how the contest played out in my neighborhood. Maybe that's one view at the precinct level, or perhaps I just want to look at the overall results for my community as a whole. So that was just a quick overview of the election solutions Christian mentioned earlier, and it's just one of a whole collection of solutions we have in ArcGIS. And so I just want to kind of close the presentation by where I started, and that is at my ArcGIS Online subscription. And so when I subscribe to ArcGIS Online, I can go in and just access that entire collection of solutions that are available. And much like I showed you earlier, I can search for a specific solution that's interesting to me. And if we want to go back maybe and look at those election solutions again, and perhaps select election results, I can read more about it. I can get access to the help, and ultimately I can hit Get Now. And what that will do is create your ArcGIS election results solution in your organization. And ultimately it will create all the content that you need to load your election results into ArcGIS and produce an election results dashboard like I showed you today. So Christian, that was just a quick overview of the election solutions and ArcGIS solutions as a whole. I'll turn it back to you to kind of close and we can take some questions.
Sure, thanks, Scott. That was fantastic. So I had a couple of things came to mind as I was watching the demonstration. So I'm going to three things. Just want to reinforce the fact that when we say solution, what we're referring to is a collection of applications, right? So a solution is a collection of applications. It's not just one. Number two, the solutions and the applications within the solutions are designed. Hopefully you saw this. We chose that elections example on purpose because it's a good metaphor for sort of the spirit behind the solutions, which is the second point, which is they're functional and they're focused applications that support like the specific work and service functions of your organization. So they're not just generic capabilities, it's actually driving toward part of your missions within your organization. And then third, sort of the deployment of these. One of the things that we've observed and experienced through this is that as you deploy the solutions broadly across the organization, you're actually enhancing your service offerings that are available to your internal and external constituents. So it's pretty impactful. I hope that was clear in using that example as a good example to sort of share all this. And so those solutions are enabled by ArcGIS Online. So that's the underlying technology, Esri technology, our SaaS mapping and analysis platform that enables the deployment of these solutions. And so the use of ArcGIS Online, clearly I just want to make the point that you're not limited to these solutions. When you're using ArcGIS Online, you have access to the full capabilities that SaaS technology affords you: information sharing, mapping and analysis, integration with your enterprise GIS. So all those capabilities are obviously there. The solutions are enabled by that infrastructure. So it's just important to note that as well. One of the questions that we get, and one of the things that we want to just make sure that you're totally aware of, is that, so how do you actually hydrate the applications with the relevant data? So for existing GIS users, and just and then beyond the spatial content, just your authoritative organizational content can be wired up to obviously support these solution offerings. So you can use your authoritative content from your organization as the underlying data that powers the solutions. You can also take advantage of ready-to-use content that's made available through the Living Atlas. And the Living Atlas is an amazing resource if you're not familiar with it. If you just search on Living Atlas, you can, you'll find it immediately, and you can spend time perusing through literally thousands upon thousands of data sets that are available through the Living Atlas ecosystem. And it's the largest collection of curated spatial data in the world. So it's a tremendous resource for you to take advantage of, to find base maps and other information that can also be leveraged in the solution deployment, along with location services that are offered through Esri. So geocoding, routing, and the geo enrichment of your data. So all those are available through location services that we provide. And then in addition, ArcGIS Online comes with some content creation tools that you can leverage to build content that you're going to use in deploying the solutions. So this sort of brings us to the close, and we can answer some questions. But again, I want to reinforce this notion that our objective here is to deliver really valuable solutions that enable you to deploy GIS and location capabilities across your organization, and do it in a way that is sustainable, so that you're able to sustain those implementations and support for your organization, to deploy them quickly, and to address the the functional requirements of your organization, soup to nuts. So again, just recall the number of domain areas that we're trying to build these solutions for, and that we have built the solutions for. So it's broad, quick, and sustainable implementations. Take advantage of the foundational characteristics of SaaS technology, right? So that they're scalable, reliable, that they perform, and you're able to deliver them in a way that meets your end user expectations in a SaaS environment. And then I don't want to miss the opportunity to communicate that this capability is opening the door to organizations that up to this point have not had either the resources or the ability, for a variety of reasons, to take full advantage of GIS and location in their organizations. And it's we have examples, again, on an almost daily basis, of organizations that do not have complete GIS implementations or no GIS technology at all up to this point, and are deploying the solutions within the ArcGIS Online environment and getting real value from it. So it's I couldn't be any more excited about it. and just the prospects of this capability just literally transforming the way that GIS is implemented in governments across the full spectrum. So there were a few questions that I jotted down that came in that I'm going to go ahead and address. And the first question, it wasn't exactly asked this way. I'm sort of aggregating a couple of questions, but there were some questions about the intended end user for these solutions, and it revolved around, are these solutions intended for small governments, large governments? Where's the intended user lie? And the reality of it is that they're applicable and actually being used in absolutely all jurisdictions and all sizes right now. Large cities with populations of over 250,000, for example, cities and counties, active users of our solutions, all the way down to very small jurisdictions. So they're really, the intent of our solutions effort was to identify the common patterns of deployment, and those common patterns exist in large and small, and so they're absolutely taken advantage of by that full spectrum of user. What I would add to that answer is to say that it's sort of exciting that the solutions sort of offer a gateway to organizations, typically on the smaller side, that have not been able to take full advantage of a GIS. And so it really does open the door to new users, absolutely deployed up and down that scale. Scott, would you add anything to that, or?
No, and I think just picking up, because we do have quite a few questions, Christian, we can get to today. I think elections are a pretty interesting topic for people, because I see several questions around what we showed. But maybe just talk a little bit about, you said early on how this is a new capability, or these are new capabilities in ArcGIS. Just talk about kind of what specifically you were referring to there, and I can help with that too if you want.
But, yeah.
Why is this different? Like, what? Tell us, maybe help the audience understand, like, what's changed.
Yeah. So what's new and what is sort of transformative, and we've been working toward this, is that with the current release of ArcGIS Online, you can administer solutions directly from that environment without the need for desktop technology or any other technology within the Esri stack. That does not for one second mean that if you're an enterprise GIS, they're fully integrated with the rest of that stack, but for organizations that don't have a GIS and don't have the means to deploy a complete GIS system, you can deploy these solutions directly from the ArcGIS Online environment in a 100% SaaS environment. That's one thing that's the line that we crossed with our current capabilities right now. That is pretty exciting. And so it's not just for a government, city or county, for example, that doesn't have a GIS. It could also be a department within an existing organization that may not have the departmental resources to deploy a full stack GIS. They can use their existing resources to deploy solutions like the election solution, for example. Scott, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, no, and I think what's really important then is that lowers the bar in terms of, it simplifies the deployment. So like you said, organizations that may not have access to a large group of technical resources can take advantage of them too. And in organizations that do have technical capacity, it helps them expand their reach, right? Because we've reduced the time it takes to actually deploy them.
Yep.
There was a similar question, and I think they were kind of getting at some of the technology we deliver. So they also asked about, can the solutions be deployed in an on-premise portal? The answer is yes. In many cases, we try to certify all of our solutions in ArcGIS Enterprise as well too, for those that do want to deploy. We're actually making that process easier at the next release of 10.9. But ultimately, our goal is to support both a SaaS implementation with ArcGIS Online or an on-premise implementation with ArcGIS Enterprise, and you'll then have the choice to decide what's the most appropriate architecture for your organization.
Yep.
So there was a question, maybe a little bit of confusion about my demo, and I showed the next election date, August 4th. I actually was showing you just some sample data in our Try It Lives. that we haven't really updated. But all of that is just sample data from the city of Naperville. So the dates, the locations, they were fictitious and just there to illustrate the capabilities that are available. But as you use the election solutions and manage the content associated with those polling places or voting centers, it will show the voter, the next election day, when's the last time that they can register to vote, and all of the key dates that you populate in your community. So there's a question maybe getting a little deeper into the technology about are certain solutions only available at certain license levels? And I guess what I would say to that is we try to specify all of that information in our documentation, and certainly our solutions do require certain users or user types. All of our ArcGIS Online is all licensed around users in the organization, and we identify, the user types that are required to take advantage of the solutions we deliver. Many of them, the ones I showed you today, are designed for the public, so obviously those don't require the users, any users at all. The users are really focused more around the internal organization itself. Christian, you want to talk maybe a little bit about what we've done to make that easier to buy those users that are required?
Yeah, so we're in the process of launching resources on an e-commerce site. So I'll show you the URL. Actually, I can just, everybody knows what's going on here. So we're doing questions, and you can go to goesri.com SaaS GIS. We have a website. We are going to be launching an e-commerce site that allow you to go in and just buy the, we have bundles, pre-configured bundles that you can actually just buy off the e-commerce site. But if you want to modify those bundles, you'll be able to radio dial up and down the different user types. I sort of jumped a little bit ahead. We are launching a new solution site, and on that solution site will be very, very specific about the user types that are required for each solution. So if you find a solution that you're interested in, whether it be elections, capital improvement planning, some of our public health work, doesn't matter, in the documentation on the solution site, it will indicate the user types that are required, and then you can just buy that online, easily through our e-commerce site. And so I think that, Scott, aren't we launching that website in November? Is that right?
Yeah, correct. Yep, just a few weeks away.
Yep. And so, another thing, Scott, I was looking at some of the questions. Again, I'm sort of aggregating a couple for the sake of time, but there were some questions around just around the solutions concept in general, and the benefits that just around the solution concept in general. And so there's two things that jump out at me that this resonates with anybody. This really provides you with the opportunity to proactively take solutions to your organization. So we've seen this over the years where that has been really beneficial to our user community, where they're able to respond quickly and proactively to organizational needs because the solutions exist. So you have something to take and share with your organization, very quickly and in a very responsive manner as things sort of shift. We saw this happen with the pandemic work that we did, and it was pretty impactful. Number two, in doing that and releasing solutions in this manner, I'm sort of making up a term here, but you're really participating in what I would describe as like an innovation cycle for your organization. So you're as you deploy solutions over time at a rapid rate, it really manifests as frequent introduction of new capabilities and service offerings. So it projects this real sense of innovation and attention to the needs of your constituents, both internal and external. And those have been really, really impactful sort of collateral impacts of the solution deployment effort.
Yeah, and I guess, Christian, I just want to hit it. I'll do kind of the same thing. I was looking at some other questions we got. We got several questions around how do I license? How do I, my subscription, does that provide access to, to the solutions? And I just want to reiterate a point we made earlier. Each of the solutions that we've developed leverages one or more user types. And so when you buy those user types, and you can do that through a variety of means Christian talked about earlier, with those user types comes access to the solutions, right? And those solutions are designed for capabilities, whether those are applications we're using or capabilities within the platform, to take advantage of the users that you license for your organization. So it really does give you the flexibility to, whether you're a large organization that has many users or you're a smaller organization, to right size your implementation around the individuals that you're engaging in that are using the information products we deliver in the solution. So we had several questions around that, and I just wanted to make sure people understand kind of the connection between those.
And very clearly, Scott, the user types are not tied to a solution.
That's correct. Yep.
That's an important thing to note.
Yep.
They're not tied to a solution. You have access to all the solutions within that portfolio through the user types, right?
Yep. That's a really good.
That's actually a huge thing. All right, so we've gone a little bit over, Scott, so I feel like we need to probably move.
Wrap up. Okay. Yeah, certainly we can, any questions we didn't answer specifically, we can get with you afterwards. And then do you have one question we did know, Christian, for people that want to socialize this video afterwards, is it available? It'll be available on the Connect site, I would assume, and if not, we'll get in touch with you exactly where it is after.
Yep, 100%. Yep. So our next webinar is going to be on November 18th, and it's going to address civic engagement, and I'm excited about it. This is a really important topic, and I've thought a lot about it over the past 6 or so months. Just the opportunity that exists for GIS to contribute to really effective civic engagement. So what we're going to cover are, and I recently wrote a blog post on this, and it's available on the Esri website. Again, I need to figure out how to get that, make that available, the link to everyone who attended this webinar. But there are some foundational best practices that we know through work with organizations like yours really are impactful for civic engagement. We're going to cover those in the next webinar. So again, that's November 18th. Please attend that webinar. We'll look forward to seeing you. We'll take, every one of these, we try to do better and better. So we're taking our experience in doing the webinars and using them to sort of inform how we proceed. So I look forward to seeing you on November 18th. I'll be leading that webinar as well, along with a colleague, Shelby Hines, and it should be fun. So I appreciate you taking the time to join us today. And we'll be talking soon, and I can't wait to start traveling again and get out there and see you guys face to face. But until then, take care and be safe. Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.